Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The ICC condemns Pakistan's boycott of the T20 World Cup clash with India, says it threatens the integrity of global cricket. Kremlin confirms the rescheduled Russia-Ukraine-US peace talks in Abu Dhabi. The talks are rescheduled for Wednesday. Iran's president orders the start of talks with the United States on the nuclear deal amid rising tensions. The International Cricket Council, the ICC, on Sunday issued a statement strongly objecting to the announcement by the Pakistan government that it would forfeit its T20 World Cup match against India. The ICC noted that Pakistan's government had instructed its national team to selectively participate in the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2026. The World Cricket Body emphasized that such selective participation is difficult to reconcile with the fundamental premise of a global sporting event, where all teams are expected to compete on equal terms according to the event schedule. The ICC further stated that this decision is not in the interest of the global game. It cautioned that the Pakistan Cricket Board should consider the significant and long-term implications for cricket in its own country, as the move is likely to affect the wider cricket ecosystem. Pakistan is placed with India in Group A. On Sunday, the government announced that the national team would not take the field against India. However, the PCB has not yet issued any official statement on the matter. And the BCCI Vice President Rajiv Shukla said the Board of Control for Cricket in India agrees with the ICC's stance on sportsmanship regarding Pakistan's boycott of their T20 World Cup 2026 group stage match against India, and will comment only after speaking with the ICC.
स्टेटमेंट आया है जिसमें उन्होंने खेल भावना को लेकर कहा है, तो हम पूरी तरह आईसीसी से सहमत हैं, और लेकिन हम बीसीसीआई इस पर भी कोई टिप्पणी नहीं करेगी जब तक आईसीसी से हमारी बातचीत ना हो जाए.
The External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, begins his three-day visit to the United States from the 2nd to the 4th of February. The External Affairs Minister will attend a Washington-led Critical Minerals Ministerial convened by the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The ministerial will focus on supply chain resilience, clean energy transitions and strategic cooperation in critical minerals. EM Jaishankar will also hold meetings with senior members of the U.S. administration. The Union Budget 2026-27 has delivered a major push to India's financial markets with a clear message for global investors. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has opened direct access to Indian equities for foreign individuals, raised ownership limits, and unveiled a new market-making framework. This is for corporate bonds. Let's look at this report.
Union Budget 2026-27, presented on Sunday, marks a significant step forward in strengthening India's integration with the global financial markets. Key announcements include the introduction of a market-making framework for corporate bonds, a new investment route for foreign individuals into Indian equities, and a substantial increase in ownership limits for such investors in listed companies. In a major boost to foreign individual participation, the investment limit for an individual PROI has been increased from 5% to 10%, while the aggregate investment ceiling for all individual PROIs has been raised from 10% to 24%. This reform enables foreign individuals to invest directly in Indian listed equities without routing funds through registered foreign portfolio investors. The expanded category includes non-resident Indians, overseas citizen of India card holders, foreign citizens, and entities registered outside India.
Individual persons resident outside India, PROI, will be permitted to invest in equity instruments of listed Indian companies through the Portfolio Investment Scheme. It is also proposed to increase the investment limit for an individual PROI under the scheme from 5% to 10%, with an overall investment limit for all individual PROIs to 24% from the current 10%.
Direct access for foreign individuals is expected to attract greater overseas capital inflows, enhancing liquidity and market depth. Broader participation beyond institutional investors will diversify ownership and reduce reliance on a limited set of large players. Increased demand for Indian equities could support stronger valuations. The move aligns India's equity markets with global best practices, improving their appeal to international investors. Budget 2026-27 proposes for a market-making framework with suitable access to funds and derivatives on corporate bond indices, along with a proposal for total return swaps on corporate bonds. The union budget proposes an incentive of 100 crore rupees for a single bond issuance of more than 1,000 crore rupees. The current scheme under Amrut, which incentivizes issuances up to 200 crore rupees, will also continue to support smaller and medium towns.
To encourage the issuance of municipal bonds of higher value by larger cities, I propose an incentive of 100 crore rupees for a single bond issuance. 100 crore rupees for a single bond issuance of more than 1,000 crore.
The budget 2026-27 reinforces India's ambition to emerge as a mature, globally competitive financial market. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has ordered the start of nuclear talks with the United States, as per Iranian media reports on Monday, after the US President Donald Trump said that he was hopeful of a deal to avert military action. Earlier, Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Bakhail, he had said that Iran is weighing the terms for resuming talks with the United States soon, after both sides signaled readiness to revive diplomacy over a long-running nuclear dispute and to dispel fears of a new regional war. He also noted that Iran has not received an ultimatum from the United States' president to reach a nuclear agreement.
Various points have been exchanged. At this stage, we are reviewing and deciding on the details of any diplomatic process, which we hope will reach a conclusion in the coming days.
The Iranian authorities have arrested 4 foreigners of undisclosed nationalities for what they say is participation in the riots. Now, officials said that the arrested individuals were apprehended during a raid on their hideout in the region. The Iranian authorities accuse Israel and the United States of having had a hand in these riots. NGOs based abroad have accused the security forces of intentionally targeting protesters in a movement that disrupted the Islamic Republic in January. On January 24, it was reported that 2 foreigners were arrested in western Iran. Meanwhile, Iran has summoned European ambassadors stationed in Tehran after the EU's designation of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist group. Iran's foreign ministry said that this is the smallest of measures before other moves are announced.
This move by the European Union was not only an insult to the Iranian people, but also stemmed from a strategic miscalculation by the EU. Unfortunately, the European Union has forgotten that those it insults by labeling them as terrorists are the ones safeguarding the security and stability in the Persian Gulf region.
The Kremlin has confirmed the upcoming trilateral talks involving Russia, Ukraine and the United States in Abu Dhabi following a recent rescheduling. Originally stated for Sunday, the second round of US brokered peace negotiations aimed at ending the Russia-Ukraine nearly 4-year conflict will now occur on February 4 and 5. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had announced the dates on Sunday, stating Kiev's readiness for substantive discussions toward a real and also dignified resolution. The talks build on initial meetings last month in the UAE, which were described as productive but yielded limited progress on territorial issues. Israeli security officials said the key Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt was fully open for entry and exit of residents on Monday after its partial reopening a day earlier. After largely being shut for almost 2 years, only Gaza residents on foot will be allowed to cross, as per reports Rafah crossing to process 50 people in each direction per day. Now, before the conflict, Rafah border crossing with Egypt was the only direct exit point for most Gazans to reach the outside world, as well as a key entry point for aid into the territory. The reopening is a key part of the second phase of the US President Donald Trump's truce plan for the Palestinian territory. The US President Donald Trump on Sunday stated that Washington was negotiating with Havana's leadership to strike a deal days after he threatened Cuba's reeling economy with a virtual oil blockade. Trump said that Cuba is failing without Venezuela's support and that the US is in talks with the Cuban leaders about a possible deal, but did not mention what the deal would involve. Earlier on Thursday, the US President signed an executive order threatening to impose additional tariffs on any country that sells oil to Cuba. The Cuban government condemned the move as an attempt to economically suffocate the country. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Railways Minister Vaishnav announces bullet train connecting Bihar, Bengal and Assam. CISF Vande Mataram Coastal Cyclathon heads to Konark, promoting coastal security and unity. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Mark Lynn. India's Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said on Monday that the country's first bullet train will connect Bihar and West Bengal via Varanasi, Patna and Siliguri and will later be extended to Assam. The minister
वेस्ट बंगाल को बधाई हो कि आपके यहाँ पहली बुलेट ट्रेन आएगी सिलीगुड़ी के लिए। वाराणसी से सिलीगुड़ी वाया पटना ये ट्रेन बुलेट ट्रेन सिलीगुड़ी आएगी और भविष्य में ये बुलेट ट्रेन का कॉरिडोर टुवर्ड्स गुवाहाटी भी जाएगा। तो एक तरीके से नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स के लिए, बंगाल के लिए बहुत बड़ी खुशखबरी है, बुलेट ट्रेन वेस्ट बंगाल के लिए मिलेगी।
Well, the minister was speaking at a press conference on the budgetary allocation for the railways, where he stated that Assam and the Northeast have been a key focus in this year's budget. 11,486
करोड़ रुपीस का बजट एलोकेट हुआ है टोटल आसाम और नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स में 72,468 करोड़ रुपीस के रेलवे के प्रोजेक्ट्स चल रहे हैं। जो स्ट्रैटेजिक सेक्शन है करीब 40 किलोमीटर का, नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स को पूरे देश के साथ जोड़ने वाला जो हिस्सा है, उस हिस्से के लिए भी विशेष प्लानिंग की गई है। 4 लाइन्स और अंडरग्राउंड लाइन की भी प्लानिंग की गई है। अंडरग्राउंड लाइन्स की भी प्लानिंग की गई है। तो एक तरीके से नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स के लिए कनेक्टिविटी का टोटली नया एक आयाम बनेगा, नया।
Japan on Monday said they have retrieved sediment containing rare earth elements. This is from the depths of 6,000 meters during a recent deep-sea mission. The mission is part of Tokyo's efforts to curb dependence on China for these critical minerals, which are essential for high-tech industries. The retrieved sediment will undergo detailed analysis to determine the exact quantity of rare earths it contains. Officials described the operation as a significant step for both Japan's economic security and its broader maritime development initiatives. Now, Germany's unemployment rate has climbed to its highest level in 12 years last month. It's another sign that Europe's largest economy is still facing significant challenges. The DW correspondent Chiponda Chimbolo, he joins us with the latest figures on these, on what it means actually. Well, Chiponda, tell us what the latest figures are.
Thanks for having me. Well, the latest figures show that Germany's unemployment rose to 6.6% last month. And perhaps the more interesting number is that there are now more than 3 million people in the country who are out of work. The unemployment rate is now at the highest level in a dozen years. According to the Labor Office, Germany's job market has very little momentum, and that is not so unusual at this time of the year. Unemployment tends to rise in January because many fixed-term employment contracts expire at the end of the year. And there are also industries such as construction, agriculture, and tourism, which reduce their workforces because they rely on the weather for business. And many companies also put off hiring new employees at the end of the year. But the latest figures are still very much a cause for concern.
What can be expected going forward then, Chipondo?
Economists are warning that Germany's economic crisis isn't over. Now, the government has already lowered the growth forecasts for this year and 2027, and the coming months will be decisive because we will get to see whether German Chancellor's plans to jumpstart the economy are really having their intended effect. Now, this is the first year that the massive stimulus for infrastructure and defense begins flowing into the economy. And Germany will also have 4 regional elections. Now, that is where we will really get to see how the country's ongoing economic struggles are affecting ordinary people and how they choose to vote. Now, how the parties in the ruling coalition perform at the polls will be a verdict of what Germans make of their government's economic plans. And while Germany may not be in a recession, and of course its economy is finally expanding, that is not something that ordinary Germans will be focusing on. They will be looking at whether they have enough money in their pockets. And that is why we should keep an eye on those unemployment figures in the coming months.
Well, Chipondo Chembolu, thanks very much for joining us. Dubai is set to host the World Governments Summit 2026 from February 3rd to 5th. Bringing together world leaders, ministers and policymakers at a time of heightened global uncertainty. It's held annually and it's been done so since 2013. And this summit has grown into one of the world's leading platforms for discussions on governance and innovation. The 2026 edition is themed Shaping Future Governments and is going to be the largest so far, with more than 35 heads of state and government leaders, also representatives from over 150 countries and around 500 ministers expected to attend. The major highlight this year will be the launch of the World Laureates Summit being held on the sidelines of the main event from around February 1st. The forum will bring together it's going to bring together 150 plus leading scientists, including Nobel Prize winners, Turing Award recipients, as well as Fields medalists, alongside industry and research leaders. Well, as music's biggest night returned to Los Angeles, the Grammy Awards delivered historic wins, powerful speeches, unforgettable performances. The spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, said on Monday that he's grateful for his first Grammy after bagging the top music industry award for the best audiobook, narration and storytelling. Diptanshu Kashyap has this report.
Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny made history at the 68th Grammys in Los Angeles, winning Album of the Year for I Should Have Taken More Photos, the first Spanish-language album ever to receive Music's top honor. He also won 2 other awards and used the spotlight to deliver a strong political message against nationwide immigration raids. Rapper Kendrick Lamar led the night with 5 Grammy wins, including Record of the Year for Luther, featuring SZA, and Best Rap Album for GNX. Billie Eilish and Phineas won Song of the Year for Wildflower, while Britain's Olivia Dean was named Best New Artist. Lady Gaga picked up 2 awards, including Best Pop Vocal Album, while Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters won the Best Song Written for Visual Media. The vampire horror film Sinners also claimed 2 soundtrack awards. At the untelevised pre-ceremony, the Dalai Lama won Best Audiobook, Narration and Storytelling Recording, expressing gratitude for his first Grammy, while film director Steven Spielberg won the Best Music Film for Music by John Williams, completing his EGOT. The ceremony featured high-energy performances from Bruno Mars and K-pop singer Rosé, along with Lady Gaga, Justin Bieber and Sabrina Carpenter, along with tributes by Reba McEntire and Lauryn Hill honoring artists who passed away. Host Trevor Noah kept the night lively with his humor. With historic wins, emotional speeches and stand-up performances, the Grammys delivered a night where music and message shared the spotlight. Diptanshu Kashyap for DD India.
Well, let's take a look at other stories making news from around the world. A teenager injured in the New Year fire at Swiss Bar has died in hospital, pushing the death toll now to 41. The blaze broke out last month at a ski resort of Crans, Montana, and authorities say that 115 others are injured. Many are still receiving treatment, in fact, in hospitals. Italy's Venice Carnival began on Sunday with a colorful parade along the Grand Canal, and it fills the waterway with swirling colors, as we can see. Now, this year's carnival carries an Olympic theme. It's linked to Italy hosting the Milan Cortina Winter Games. It's titled Olympus at the Origins of the Game. And the celebrations run from the 31st of January to the 17th of February, blending sport and ancient mythology into a festive tradition. Russia's winter wellness trend, known as ice floating, is gaining popularity in Moscow, where people enter the icy Moscow River wearing rescue wetsuits. So these suits, in fact, help the participants stay warm, and they feel weightless also despite freezing water. Along the long popular ceremony, it happens in regions like Murmansk and Lake Baikal. So this activity has now reached the Russian capital, where the winter temperatures can actually drop to about minus 20 degrees Celsius. The second edition of the CISF Vande Mataram Coastal Cyclathon is set to reach Konark as part of its nationwide coastal journey, carrying the theme Surakshit Tat Samridh Bharat. So this cyclathon, it aims to promote coastal security awareness, national unity and community participation. Here's the report.
A
As the first light of dawn breaks over the Konark Sun Temple, preparations are underway along the route for the smooth movement of cyclists on the eastern coast leg of the CISF Vande Mataram Coastal Cyclathon. The nationwide cycling expedition is covering the entire mainland coastline of India, carrying a message of security, unity and public participation.
यहाँ पे एक कल्चर इवेंट हम करवा रहे हैं। उद्देश्य ये रहेगा कि जो उड़ीसा का कल्चर है इस साइक्लोथॉन के माध्यम से जोड़ा जाए कि जितने भी हमारे साइकिलिस्ट आ रहे हैं वो गांव में रुक रहे हैं और रात के समय और रुकने का अगेन जो उद्देश्य है वो ये है कि वो वहाँ पे जाएं, वहाँ के जो बुजुर्ग हैं, वहाँ के युवा हैं, वहाँ की महिलाएं हैं, उनके साथ में वार्तालाप करें, उनसे ज्ञान सीखें, उनकी जानकारी को साझा करें।
Strong youth participation underlines the cyclothon's focus on fitness and discipline. Women cyclists, forming nearly 50% of the contingent, mark a significant step towards gender inclusivity and women empowerment in national service initiatives.
The core inspiration for the cyclothon is to encourage the local people, to encourage them for the security of our coastal region. Apart from that, to encourage the local youth for having the Fit India movement. We are also encouraging the women to participate in the forces, to join in the forces.
Spanning over 6,500 kilometers across 9 coastal states and 2 union territories, the 25-day cyclothon is among the country's most extensive coastal awareness campaigns. Carrying the theme of Secure Coasts, Prosperous India, it aligns with the Prime Minister's vision of Sagar, security and growth for all in the region.
As Cyclothon 2026 approaches, Konark stands prepared not just for an event, but to carry forward a wider message of public participation and coastal security awareness. With cameraman Rakesh Kumar, this is Abhishek Mahajan in Konark for DD India.
Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. Available on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn from all of us here in Delhi. Thank you very much for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.